Imagine a war so brief, it was over before anyone could even realize it had begun. Back in the 19th century, there was a clash that didn't drag on for decades but wrapped up in just 38 minutes. Yes, you heard it right. Minutes, not years. This record-breaking skirmish, known as the Anglo-Zanzibar War, holds the title of the shortest war in history, as noted by the Guinness Book of World Records. Now, you might wonder, what sparked this fleeting fight between two nations, and how was it all over in only 45 minutes? Stay tuned to uncover the swift showdown that unfolded in Africa and made its mark in the annals of history. What caused the Sultanate's serenity? In the shimmering waters of the Indian Ocean, the island of Zanzibar, a stone's throw from the East African coast, was once the domain of the Sultanate of Oman. A tranquil paradise, it was a place where the rhythms of life were dictated by the ebb and flow of the tides. But the serenity of Zanzibar belied the undercurrents of imperial ambition that lurked beneath its surface. The British Empire, with its voracious hunger for dominion, cast its covetous eyes on Zanzibar and the broader expanse of East Africa. To the British, their civilization was the apex of human achievement, a beacon of progress that ought to shine upon the Eastern world, India, Africa, and the Arab nations. Yet the sovereignty of Zanzibar remained unchallenged, safeguarded by the formidable presence of Oman and its ruler, Sultan Said bin Sultan, the Lion of Oman, whose unwavering principles were as legendary as his moniker. The year 1856 heralded a seismic shift. The death of the Sultan precipitated a division within the heart of Oman. His progeny, caught in a web of legacy and longing, cleaved a kingdom in twain. Then bin Said ascended to the throne of Oman, while Majid bin Said, with a vision of his own, declared Zanzibar an independent sovereign state. The British, ever opportunistic, embraced this moment of fragility, extending their patronage over Majid bin Said, and thus began the subtle entwining of Zanzibar's fate with the British Empire. How did Zanzibar transform an era? Zanzibar burgeoned, its economy intertwined with the grim legacy of the world's last slave market. It was a place where the air was thick with despair, as slaves were ferried from the African mainland, many choosing the embrace of the ocean over the shackles of servitude. Those who survived the harrowing journey were met with the unspeakable conditions of the market, crammed into cells, starved, and stripped of dignity. Yet amidst this darkness stood the Sultan's palace, a marvel of modernity, the first structure in East Africa to be illuminated by electricity. A network of bridges connected the palace's many buildings, a testament to the Sultan's grandeur. The British, however, were resolute in their moral crusade to abolish the slave trade. Through relentless diplomacy and pressure, they succeeded in closing the market in 1873, a move that heralded the end of an era and the cementing of British influence over Zanzibar. The narrative leaps forward to the fateful day of the 25th August, 1896. The sudden passing of Zanzibar's pro-British Sultan ignited a fierce succession dispute. Khalid bin Bargash, fueled by a potent mix of ambition and defiance, seized the throne, challenging the British intent to install Hamoud bin Mohammed as Sultan. The British, recognizing the threat to their hegemony, dispatched a stern ultimatum to Khalid's palace, a stark portent of the strife that lay ahead. What will happen next in this gripping tale of power and resistance? Will Khalid's defiance lead to triumph or tragedy? The dawn of August 27th was like no other in Zanzibar. The air was thick with tension, the sea bristled with the might of the British Navy, and the grand Alishan Palace stood defiant, a fortress under siege. Sultan Khalid, resolute and unyielding, had rallied his forces, a formidable assembly of 82,800 guards, civil servants, and loyal subjects. They were ready to defend their sovereign ground against any threat. As the clock ticked towards the ultimatum's end, the Sultan's message echoed through the palace halls, a bold declaration of defiance. The British Council's response was equally stern, a veiled threat that hung heavy over the island. The stage was set for a confrontation of epic proportions. The Sultan's arsenal was impressive, boasting the majestic HHS Glasgow, a gift from Queen Victoria herself, and 2 steam-powered ports ready to challenge the Royal Navy's supremacy. But as the deadline approached, the British fleet, with its 2 cruisers, 3 gunboats, and a contingent of 150 Marines, advanced with a grim determination. At precisely 9 o'clock, the silence shattered. The gunboats, Raccoon, Thrush, and Sparrow, unleashed their fury. The Pallas's 12-pounder cannon was no match for the onslaught, and the HHS Glasgow met a swift demise. Yet, even as it sank, its crew hoisted the British flag in surrender, a poignant symbol of the battle's inevitable outcome. The Sultan, sensing the tide turning, vanished into the morning mist, leaving his palace to face its fate. The bombardment was relentless, a storm of shells and gunfire that claimed 500 of the Sultan's valiant soldiers. Then, at 9:37 a.m., the British soldiers breached the palace gates. The remaining guards, weary and overwhelmed, laid down their arms. A minute later, the Sultan's flag was replaced with that of the British, marking the end of the shortest war in history, a mere 38 minutes of fierce combat. Remarkably, the British suffered but a single injury, a testament to their naval prowess. Sultan Khalid bin Bargash, now a fugitive, sought sanctuary in East Africa, where the British and Germans vied for dominance. With the palace secured, Sultan Hamud bin Mohammed ascended to the throne, heralding a new era of British influence in Zanzibar. Over the next decade, the winds of change swept across the island, liberating 17,200 souls from the shackles of slavery and reshaping the destiny of a nation. Why was Zanzibar close to war? As the sun rose on the 27th of August, the island of Zanzibar was on the brink of an unprecedented conflict. Sultan Khalid, newly ascended to the throne, had fortified himself within the grandiose walls of the Alishan Palace. The British, who had long held sway over the island, issued an ultimatum: vacate the palace by 9 a.m. or face dire consequences. The Sultan, bolstered by a formidable force of 82,800 guards, civil servants, and a loyal retinue of servants and slaves, remained resolute. The palace, a symbol of the Sultan's authority, bristled with anticipation. The British Navy, a formidable presence, encircled Zanzibar Island, their ships a stark reminder of the empire's reach. In the palace, the atmosphere was tense. The Sultan's advisors and confidants moved through the corridors, their whispers a mixture of fear and defiance. Outside, the British Council conveyed their message. They had no desire for bloodshed, yet their readiness to attack was unmistakable. The Sultan's response was one of bravado. He believed the British would not dare to engage in battle, a sentiment that rippled through the ranks of his assembled army. The palace's defenses included the HHS Glasgow, a royal yacht weighing 32,000 pounds, a gift from Queen Victoria herself. Alongside it, 2 steam-powered ports stood ready to challenge the Royal Navy's might. As the deadline approached, the British fleet, comprising 2 cruisers, 3 gunboats, and 150 Marines, began their advance. The tension that had been simmering for 2 nights reached a boiling point. The Sultan's guards, a mix of seasoned warriors and young recruits, stood their ground, their numbers dwarfing the British Marines. What triggered the shortest war? At 9 a.m., the moment of truth arrived. The British gunboats, Raccoon, Thrush, and Sparrow, opened fire. The palace's defenses crumbled under the barrage, the 12-pounder cannon was obliterated, and the HHS Glasgow was struck a devastating blow. Despite its sinking, the yacht's crew raised the British flag, signaling their surrender. The Sultan, realizing the futility of resistance, made a stealthy escape, slipping away with his closest Arab allies. The palace, once a bastion of power, was now a scene of chaos. The British bombardment continued, unleashing a hail of 500 shells, 4,100 machine gun rounds, and 1,000 rifle rounds upon the defenders. At 9:37 a.m., British soldiers stormed the palace. The remaining guards, outnumbered and outgunned, surrendered. 1 minute later, at 9:38 a.m., the British flag was hoisted atop the palace, marking the end of the war, a mere 38 minutes of combat that would echo through history. In the aftermath, only one British sailor was injured, a stark contrast to the 500 Sultan's soldiers who perished. Sultan Khalid bin Bargash, now a fugitive, sought refuge in East Africa, a land divided between British and German influence. The same day, Sultan Hamud bin Muhammad was installed as the new ruler of Zanzibar. Under his reign and the shadow of British rule, Zanzibar began a transformative journey. Over the next decade, the island would see the emancipation of 17,200 individuals from the bonds of slavery, a monumental shift in its social fabric. The Anglo-Zanzibar War, though brief, marked the beginning of a new chapter in Zanzibar's history. It became an indirect colony of the British Empire, with Sultan Hamid bin Muhammad at the helm, steering the island nation towards a future free from the vestiges of its slave-trading past.